Should the New York Knicks look to trade for Anthony Davis? Ever since the Knicks got Leon Rose, it's been pretty clear that they were looking to add a superstar. And throughout the history of the New York Knicks, they've missed out on their fair share of superstars, most recently Donovan Mitchell. But at this point, it seems like there's a real opportunity for the Knicks to look to trade for Anthony Davis, as crazy as that might sound. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports, I make opinionative NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Ever since Anthony Davis was drafted, it was pretty clear that this guy was going to be a star. The skill set that he had was just incredible. The fact that he was so agile, had a very silky smooth jump shot alongside with good ball handling, a nice post ability, and basically the ability to do everything out there on the offensive side, alongside with being a very good defender, just made him such a valuable player in the NBA and a legitimate superstar very early on. And throughout the course of his career, Anthony Davis not only held up that level of superstar play, but he continuously got better. And at this point, it's very apparent that Anthony Davis isn't only one of the best big men in the NBA, but he's one of the best players in the NBA as well. So a question that some of you may be asking is, why would the Lakers ever want to trade away a player as good as Anthony Davis is? And in my opinion, I think there's a couple different reasons for why. The first and most obvious reason has to be injuries. Although AD has been one of the better players in the NBA ever since he was drafted, the one major issue throughout AD's entire career, really ever since he was drafted, has to be injuries. Season after season, AD would consistently go down with some minor injuries or maybe even some major injuries some seasons as well. And this is certainly something that isn't new, but one thing that I will say is over the past couple years, we've seen him get injured a little bit more. For example, in the past 2 seasons, he only played 36 and 40 games respectively, which of course isn't good whatsoever. And people talk about this all the time, but it doesn't matter how good you are if you're not able to stay healthy out there for the most part, and especially once it comes down to the playoffs, which AD also hasn't been able to do. It doesn't really matter. The best ability is always availability, and if you're always injured, you're no good to your team. So whenever you have a superstar player like Anthony Davis that has been going through a bunch of injuries and has injury concerns basically throughout his whole career, that's always something that you're thinking about in the back of your mind at the very least. And if you're able to move a player like that and get a ton in return, it might make sense in certain situations, and in my opinion, I think the situation that the Lakers are in currently might meet that criteria. Now, the next reason that I want to touch upon on why it might make sense for the Lakers to trade away Anthony Davis has to be their record and how they're playing as of late. Now, basically, ever since the Lakers won the championship during the 2020 NBA bubble, they haven't been good whatsoever. And this season, it's been worse than ever. On the year, they only have a 3-10 record, and they're one of the worst teams in the NBA. And they have both Anthony Davis and LeBron James on the roster, which is crazy. I actually recently made a video about a week or two ago saying that I thought it made a lot of sense for the Lakers to blow things up and trade away Anthony Davis and or LeBron James. But at that point, I didn't know the Lakers were going to be as bad as they have been thus far this season, and in my opinion, that's just more reason for the Lakers to blow things up and trade away AD specifically for this video's purposes. Now, you certainly could make the argument that the season is still very early on, and of course that is true, but at the same time, when you look at the recent track record of the Lakers from last year and the couple years before that, alongside with how they've played early on into this season, there isn't that much that would give you hope that the Lakers would be able to turn things around as the season does progress. Now, of course, whenever you have guys as talented as Anthony Davis and LeBron James, there's always a chance, but at this point, I wouldn't say it's all that likely. But now let's move on to the New York Knicks perspective. Why would they want to trade for Anthony Davis? So before in the video, I did mention a couple negatives about Anthony Davis, more specifically his injuries. That's really the only major issue with Anthony Davis. And some may make the argument that why would you trade away a significant amount of players and picks in return for Anthony Davis, who's known to be injury prone and could potentially be injury prone for you as well. But while that issue is certainly a concern, at the end of the day, Anthony Davis is a legitimate superstar and one of the best players in the NBA. And when healthy, I certainly think you can make the argument that he's the best big in the NBA. At this point, I don't think you could say that due to injuries, but if he was healthy for a consistent amount of time, I think you would be able to make that argument. And in my opinion, whenever you have an opportunity
opportunity to bring in a superstar player, but especially a high-level superstar player like Anthony Davis is, you always have to take that opportunity. Especially when you consider that the Knicks are a relatively young team, and bringing in a guy like Anthony Davis could significantly benefit some of their other players on the roster, like RJ Barrett specifically, and some other guys depending who's on the roster after this trade would hypothetically go down. But also I think it makes a ton of sense for the Knicks due to the timing of it as well. Because as I mentioned before, the Lakers aren't good, so this is probably the best opportunity for the Lakers to trade away Anthony Davis right now than it's ever been in the past. And due to that, you may be able to get Anthony Davis for a little bit less now. And when you also consider all the other injury concerns and the other issues going on with the Lakers, I just feel like this is a perfect opportunity for a team like the Knicks to go out and trade for Anthony Davis. Because sometimes when you look at the best trades for certain teams or the bigger fleeces for certain teams, you may say, how would the opposing team ever accept that deal? But it always comes down to timing. Maybe at the time it made sense to trade away that specific player for the team, even if it didn't end up turning out well. At the time, at least it made sense. So in my opinion, the best general managers and the best presidents of basketball operations not only know what players to identify and what players to trade for, but also know the timing of when to actually do so. And a perfect example of what I mean by this and what not to do basically is the New York Knicks in the past when they traded for Carmelo Anthony. Of course the Knicks wanted Carmelo Anthony, and in my opinion I think he was a perfect player to go after at the time, but the timing of it was terrible. The Knicks could have easily just waited until free agency and signed him in free agency, and they wouldn't need to trade anything away, but instead they decided to trade for Carmelo Anthony, who was on an expiring contract, and they had to gut their roster to do so. So basically the point that I'm trying to make is timing is everything. But now the question is, what would a potential deal sending Anthony Davis to the New York Knicks look like? Well, it seems like whenever you're trading away a player of the caliber of AD, the baseline is always at the bare minimum 3 first-round picks alongside with other talented players. But due to recent events, more specifically the Rudy Gobert trade, it seems like that price may have risen. And at this point, it seems like you're probably going to need to trade away at least 4 first-round picks unprotected. So a potential deal that I could see going through between the Lakers and the Knicks could be Anthony Davis to the New York Knicks for 4 first-round picks, Julius Randle, Emmanuel Quickley, Cam Reddish, and Quentin Grimes. I think at that point, the Knicks would be happy. They would be bringing in a legitimate superstar to put alongside RJ Barrett and Jalen Brunson as well, and the Lakers would be getting a ton of draft capital, which they've lacked for a long time at this point, and they would be bringing in some nice young talent alongside with Julius Randle as well. And from there, the Lakers could trade away LeBron and get a ton in return for him as well, and start a much needed rebuild in LA. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening with not only the Los Angeles Lakers, but also the New York Knicks. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think this trade makes a lot of sense for both sides, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy it, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.